Welcome to episode 8 of Letters to My Mentees. I'm your host, Joshua Burnell, and thank you for joining us again. Today we have one of my old friends from back home. Porter, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. My name is Porter.
And yeah, he's going to talk about today about his passion from a young age. And we really want to show kind of something most people don't think of, which really goes into how cities are built, but something Porter's always been passionate about and he's continued to do now. And so, as always, we're going to start with our opening wows. So the opening wows of today is quote by Oprah Winfrey: "Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you." And I think we all are kind of searching for what excites us at the end of the day or what motivates us to continue doing and finding that one thing that really we can turn into something we love and doing, because we work a lot of our lives, but we really want our work to be something we're passionate about and can enjoy doing. And yes, we do need to take breaks, but we really want to enjoy what we're doing. Porter, do you have anything to add on that quote?
Definitely the passion is energy part. Something my mother always told me, and I'm sure she got it from somewhere else, and I'm sure someone else has also said this, but you do your best work when you do what you love. And I think that's definitely along the same veins of like passion is energy. I know at least for me, like I've always been energetic and excited about the work that I do, especially in my current internship, because it is about something I am passionate about. And definitely in terms of like some previous internships and personal projects I work on, I have that same energy because I'm working on or something related to my passion.
Okay. And so now we're going to move into our usual main segment, the advising body. And so I'm going to have Porter give the more detailed introduction of who he is. And so what we're going to kind of talk about and what his kind of role or direction he's taken in life.
All right. So yeah, my name is Porter. This past May, I graduated from Temple University with a Bachelor's of Science in Community Development. Right now, I am currently an intern for the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which is the metropolitan planning organization for the Delaware Valley region. Currently defined as the 9 counties that make up southeastern Pennsylvania and parts of South Jersey. I'm looking to continue for graduate school later on either this coming spring or next fall. Haven't decided yet. Just really, I want to take some time to do some work. Um, and so, a bit of background: I was born in Chicago. I lived there for the first 9 years of my life before my mother moved us to Washington, D.C., where I spent the next 9 years. DC is where I met Josh. And then after those 9 years, that's when I ended up at Temple. I've done a variety of internships. I've worked for the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, basically HR for the Feds, the World Bank Group, City of Memphis, and they're one of my more passion-related internships for their City Beautiful department. And then also some other side work for University of Maryland, Baltimore, and other odd jobs.
Okay.
Um, yes.
So again, me and Porter, we met back in freshman year of high school. So we were both in 100 Black Men Saturday Leadership Academy. And I
Oh,
think
was it freshman year?
yes, it was. It's a
Oh,
while
middle
ago, right?
school.
We're both graduates now. It's been 8 years.
Yeah, I thought it was middle school. Oh man, yeah, it was high school.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Time flies, right?
Yeah, it does.
But so the program was really focused on getting a bunch of young Black males in a group together from the DMV area. I'm from Northern Virginia. Porter's actually from DC, but together we were able to kind of feed off each other's energy, really work to hear each other out, see each other's lived experiences, and ultimately grow together. But even from that young age, Porter was always interested in the urban planning and transportation side. So um, Porter, let's go into exactly like what you kind of your passion and what you do, because I think it's an interesting thing. Only a few people who are like in the field see, but I think would actually interest a lot of people when it comes to those who live in these urban areas and in these cities and want to see things change.
Yeah. So generally the field that I'm interested in is urban planning. My specific area that I want to focus on is transportation planning. The easiest way I found to explain this like this: architects design the buildings, engineers build them, and planners decide where they go. And I'm the latter. Is that the latter? Yeah, I'm the latter of the third of that trio. Um, so planners, much like architects and engineers, influence a lot of aspects of your life that you wouldn't, ordinarily think of. Everything from street layout, what is on those streets in terms of like lanes specifically, where your next train station is, where your local bus stop is, where certain buildings might go, how all of that interacts with each other, is stuff that planners are responsible for. Um, so I've been interested in this since I was young. This has pretty much been like one of the only passion that I've had. I don't have a specific like memory of when this began. As I tell everyone, I pretty much just chalk it up to the fact that I used to watch Thomas the Tank Engine as a child. Um, but yes, I used to draw on maps when I was a kid, take building blocks out and pretend they were buses with coins as passengers, and all of that stuff. And they just stuck with me all these 22 years of life. So as it is now, I'm working on projects that they're right up my alley. Um, the end results of the studies and the research that I'm working on or assisting with will result in tangible changes for the people in the affected areas. My area of focus, specifically transportation planning, has to do with public transit, where really wherever. Although I personally would prefer to do like a sort of city or suburban area. So for whoever is listening, where you are, if you have buses or trains around, there are people who plan the level of service, depending on the method to that station, around it, what connections are made, and things of that nature. And that's what I want to do, and that's stuff that I've been interested in that since I was a young child.
So by young child, I think Porter can give a little more detail there because I mean, funny story. I remember when me and Porter we were doing this competition for Nissan, and they brought us to this DC car show. And this is just to exemplify how interested Porter was in public transit. Most people when they go to a car show, they're looking at the nice cars. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Corvette, all the nice sports cars. And where someone like me, has a interest in, the nicer cars, Porter disappeared on us, and we see him running across the exhibit hall to look at the new bus model. And I think that can share a nice side story of how someone is passionate about something, they'll show it in all aspects of life. So when we get to Porter's young age, when we were in high school, Porter actually had a website. And on this website, he was doing these transportation projects and actually submitting them to different localities. So you want to share a little bit about that, Porter?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I still have that website up. I'm actually planning to relaunch it soon with updated everything. But yes, it was called Transit 2050. And really, it basically just served as like an online index of things that I have worked on, so that I wouldn't get like confused trying to search for them in my Google Drive. But they were a collection of public transportation projects of my own design in various areas around the U.S. Um, with the general goal of aiming to improve quality of life and ease of access to public transportation through whatever changes or innovations in some cases of these projects were made. Again, this was back in, I think the first project that I ever started was back in 2014, so that would have been spring high school. And while I do less these days, there are still some projects that I update from time to time, based on stuff that I know. There's stuff on these projects that probably wouldn't fly now because I just didn't know any better. I just had ideas in my head that I wanted to put down, and now that I actually have background knowledge and stuff to update, what would actually be feasible ideas. But yes, to Josh's story, WMATA, which is the transit agency for DC, every time there's an auto show and they have a new bus, they bring a bus to the auto show. So that was one of my primary objectives while I was there, was to take a picture, multiple pictures of the bus because they were new. They hadn't actually been deployed in the service yet. I've always wondered why they bring a bus to the auto show, but I never complained. I was like, hey, I can get a first look at these. But yeah, so the website is still up. It's various bus, commuter rail, and light rail projects from around the country. The centerpiece is probably the two Texas-based pieces. One which was I called it A Ride for Arlington, Texas, which is sandwiched in between Fort Worth and Dallas. At about 350,000 residents, it's the largest city in the U.S. without public transit. So I created a whole bus system from the ground up. And then the other key project was the Lone Star Railway, which was for Houston. Houston, which was, well, at the time, it was the sixth largest city in the US, but is now the fourth largest city in the US and the largest city in the US without any sort of commuter rail service. So again, using existing train tracks owned by whichever many of the freight companies were there, I just created from the ground up a whole commuter rail service, complete with mock schedules, zones, potential fares, manufacturers for equipment, things of that nature. And I still have all of this stuff. Yes, I was like, hey, here's just a potential idea. And yeah, so I did many a project like that. I still have all of the maps. I look at them from time to time. I always thought, well, hey, if I ever end up here years later in life, maybe I'll actually pitch this to somebody in person. I don't know, who knows how it will go. That was before I knew about what politics were, money and stuff like that. So yeah, I did have all of these ideas.
Okay. And so, as you see, from a young age, he did this and he's now got his degree. And I wanted to go into what you're kind of doing now, because you said you've done a lot of different projects, but now you're kind of finally, some would say it as in your bag, or you've kind of been a passion point. So I want to learn a little bit about what the type of projects you're doing now and how like it kind of all built to this and really what you're focused on at the moment.
Okay. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm currently interning for the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. That's the Metropolitan Planning Commission for the Delaware Valley area, which is portions of South Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania. But for the most part, Philly's metro area, if you want to debate about whether or not portions of Wilmington are included in that. So I am a transportation planning intern. I work in the office of Transit Bike and Ped, so I am right in the middle of my forte. But DVRPC, pretty much anything planning related for the region comes through or originates from people either coming to us for counsel or we are the ones really just aggregating and presenting information. Some of the projects that the organization itself has worked on: congestion management procedures for the region, immigration updates, river access. The two rivers in the region are the Schuylkill and the Delaware. We're sort of more focused on the Delaware because it includes both the Delaware sandwiched by Pennsylvania and the Jersey. Schuylkill is just Pennsylvania. Best practices guide for multi-municipal aggregation programs. That's still something I'm trying to learn about. I actually really have no clue what that is. Yeah, so in my department, so one of the projects I'm working on now is actually a study for a train station, not too far from where I live, actually, and how to improve, just generally how to improve accessibility there. We are exploring whether or not it would be feasible to extend or reroute existing transit services to or around the station to better facilitate connections. The station itself is currently a regional rail station, which is the commuter rail system for Philly. There's several like nearby draws that are like worthy of consideration. There's a university down the street. There's existing for a neighborhood on the border between the city and the suburb. There's better than average public transportation. There's a walkable neighborhood.
So you're talking about getting people to be able to reach the station?
So yeah, so basically people can reach the station now. We're trying to see how they can do that better. And basically facilitate ease of access in like one point, like a 1 point connection for everything. So as it stands now, the station itself is a 7 minute walk down the street from another transfer center. So that it's like it's just far enough apart that people who might have wanted to like make connections between the two different modes of transportation really can't. That 7 minute walk is just like a huge disruption to the commute. On top of the fact that it's sort of parallel for the existing services that are there. It's sort of hard to explain without having you look at a map. So we're thinking that for a neighborhood that already has both commercial and residential draws, if we can have everything in one place, we can facilitate existing rides already, create new ones, and then just like have a seamless area with which people can travel through.
So combining the centers, almost making it one big center, or
sort of. So there are limitations. One of the existing services is a trolley, and Philly's whole trolley system is due to be updated sometime in the next decade. In part because the current system is not ADA compliant. All of the trolleys are step up, and there are no wheelchair mechanisms available to be used. This also means, this will creating new trolley tracks, new catenary, a bunch of stuff that, political and monetary obstacles aside, have its own set of natural challenges. So really more so like what interim solutions can we have while also leaving space for more long-term solutions in general. And I'm sorry if I'm not doing like a great job explaining it, but
no, I think you're giving a lot of insight because
yeah, okay, yeah.
Because I don't think anyone really, I think everyone kind of sees, as you said, the political and monetary side of like planning cities. But from knowing you, and having two parents who are civil engineers, I get to understand like, oh, especially as I now drive through Boston, like, okay, I can understand why these decisions were made or what happens here and there. I think it gives a lot of insight to people in understanding like these things just don't happen. The small things are things that take a long time to be fixed. Like, as you said, the trolley system is updated in the next decade and it's not ADA compliant.
Yeah, mind you,
now.
this is the trolley update has been in the works for about at least a decade prior to this. And won't be realized for at least another decade after this conversation. And so like, if you've ever had like any trouble with, like the city, sometimes again, like the city, like in not just Philly, but like any city, the city is legitimately dragging its feet. But at the same time, there's a bunch of stuff that seems simple and it just never is. I mean, even something as simple as sending a bus route, 5 blocks down the street to a new terminus, that is complicated. You gotta, drivers can only work like a set amount of hours. Will doing this extension mean we have to add another driver? Will this extension mean we have to add another bus? Is there capacity at the existing garage to add another bus? Do we have to move this to another garage? All of that stuff like factors in. So, on paper with that project that I'm working on, it seems simple. Actually, here's a great thing. Right now, there's a bus turnaround, and one of the ideas was extending the bus at the second transfer center to go to the train station. But because of the nature of the parking lot where the bus turnaround is, there can only be 2 buses there at a time. And during rush hour, both of those buses are extremely frequent, every 15 minutes or better. And the first bus can already have 2 or 3 buses waiting at a time in an area where the physical constraints of the lot only allow for 2. In fact, there's a special bump out so the driver can actually make the 2 or 3 point turn he needs to turn around, because he can't do it with the space if it was just like the regular square that it is. So on a map, it would be like, hey, just literally send this bus not even 2 minutes up the street. But you can't do that. It's at least not right now, not without further construction and elimination of parking, which is wildly unpopular literally everywhere. Or like, no, seriously, if there's one thing people will die about, it's parking. Oh my God!
Free parking shouldn't have to be a
luxury. It's not even like free parking. It's like parking at the train station. But like as soon as you even mention like removing, the any sort of parking. Actually, removing paid parking might be worse than removing free parking, because once you start adding money to the equation, you're like, if I already have to pay for this, why is it getting taken away? But yeah, so things are almost never as simple as they seem on paper, which is the part of what I was trying to convey, like with that whole thing. A lot of the ideas that we're looking at for this project look like they would just be easy to do, and that's not the case for literally a single one of them. And so that's just one of the things I'm working on right now. But
Okay.
so I just want to say despite all of the challenges presented with that, strange as it might sound to say, I'm having fun. Um, yeah, I'm having. I was telling my supervisor the other day, like not just with that project, but everything that I'm doing at this internship, is exciting. Even the stuff where it's just like, I'm just reading up on new stuff. It is exciting to read. Like I am this internship is the best internship that I have had since I started, and that was junior year of high school. Since I started doing internships, which was junior year of high school, and I have loved every single thing that I have worked on or assisted on, through the course of my internship. Which I started June 1st. I actually just got extended to December, and I don't have a single negative project that I've worked on. I truly enjoyed everything. So
Okay. So where do we go from here? Honestly, from what we talked about earlier, it seems like you'd love to establish your own rail system in a city that doesn't have one. Am I correct with that? Or is that the idealistic goal?
that's probably super idealistic. And if I were somehow simultaneously the mayor of Houston and governor of Texas, I might try. And also, if I had like $3 billion. No, from here, there are a number of paths. I'm definitely considering going back to school. It's really just a decision of where. If I want to continue at Temple, I can actually start as early as the spring. If I want to look elsewhere, I'll probably start next fall. But I'll be at this internship till at least December, and then hopefully until either next April or next July. Because they do extensions every season if both the office wants you and you want to stay, and also if they have the money for it. Um, the internship aside, I'll be in Philly until July of next year as well. So it's my intention to leave. I've been disillusioned with Philly ever since I got here, which it just sounds actually, no, it doesn't sound strange to say. I was very excited about. I love this city until I had to live here. Um, and now I really can't. I can't wait to go. The only thing that would really keep me here is as an actual job. So if I managed to get a job with DVRPC, I would stick around. Or if I stayed on the Temple, I would stick around. But without those two, I'm looking to leave. I want to get my master's. I think there are plenty of opportunities for me across the country, depending on where I want to go. But the Masters will certainly afford me easier access to those opportunities. Temple, despite all the rumors, Temple is very much a PWI. They just happen to have an above average amount of Black people for a PWI, but it is not a HBCU. And you didn't hear it from me, but they're really working on trying to change that too. And I think it's really just been a combination of Bill Cosby's honorary degree, Temple's location in North Philly, and just the fact that there is an above average amount of Black people for HBCU, like 14%. I think the national
That's
average
actually a
is like
lot.
7. Yeah, so people tend to think Temple's a HBCU, but you can hear from me, it's not.
Okay. So
Yeah, I actually my major is small, so my major was about, I want to say, 40 to 60 students at a
that's oh
time,
well that oh you're
and
talking all four
not just,
classes.
yeah, for all of the classes. So, and that's not counting the grad students who took, because we had a lot of classes that were mixed undergrad and grad. So I think I want to say like 40 to 60 students at a time across all four years. And at no point was there any more than 5 Black people, well, myself included.
Okay.
Um, I'm looking for an HBCU for grad school.
We'll
Unfortunately, my
talk.
options are limited.
We'll talk. We'll talk
Um,
after.
yeah. Morgan State is looking like the primary one. I refuse to do Jackson State. I'm not going to school in Mississippi. Um, I went to Houston in January, so Texas Southern is nice. I didn't actually know they were HBCU, but I'm looking at them. And then there's Alabama A&M, and
No
I don't like
ANT.
Birmingham. I don't like Birmingham, so I know Huntsville can't be that much better. Um,
That's debatable, but no ANT I see. No Aggie Pride I see.
they don't. I really was interested in doing NCAT, but they don't have my major. I all of the schools, all of the HBCUs with my major are the ones that I just listed. I think I'm only missing one.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's Morgan State, Texas Southern, Alabama A&M, Jackson State. There's like one school that I can't. There's one school I can't think of off the top of my head, but that's it. Um,
But yeah, seems you have a plan, and from there you're gonna go get your master's and then really help develop these cities.
I plan on doing a lot of moving around while I have no while I have nothing tying me to the land.
That is
So
true.
definitely want to get out and just see some more. Um, this year that I did a small bit of safe traveling this year. I've been to Houston and Las Vegas were new destinations. So on my overall list, I still want to try to get out to Minneapolis and Seattle before 2025. Minneapolis, Seattle, and Dallas before 2025.
Okay.
Um,
I'll be in Minneapolis in possibly the next 2 to 3 years. So
all
I'll
right,
let you know how it is.
everything's lining up.
Okay. So I guess to finish off our advising body, you're doing a lot, you're moving around, you really love exploring, you really want to work on these transportation systems and you're really passionate about it. So I guess the last question we have to ask is why do you do it? Why do you, despite the complications, whether it be monetary, the logistic errors, political, or just the fact that it's a lot of different things you have to think about, but why do you continue to do the transportation and urban planning, and why are you passionate about it?
Uh, Now this is gonna sound like a strange response, and I have two answers to this. The first is I do not know. Just like I don't know why it's trains and buses that trains and buses that motivate me. I have no clue why this specific passion has decided to stick by me throughout all my years. But that leads into my second answer, of which um I have a responsibility. You might be thinking, what should the second answer just not be your first? No, and like seriously, there are times to myself, I sit down and things like, why this? There are things I want to do with this, but I don't know why this specifically. But so I don't know why this, but in terms of what I want to do specifically, everyone deserves there needs to be equitable access to public transportation. I think after quite a lot of time of I don't want to say meditation, but let's go with internal review. Um,
Reflection.
yeah, internal reflection. Yeah, that has been my. I don't want to say that that's been what's motivated me, but that's my goal. Like that's the end game. Like there needs to be equitable access to public transportation. And while I specifically am not going to be able to realize that on even a national level, um, wherever I choose to end up, wherever I want to finish life, is where I also want to have the most impact, and that impact needs to be directly related to that goal. There needs to be equitable access to public transportation. So realistically, that's probably going to be Chicago, since that's where I want to retire. Um, but wherever I go, I want to take that phrase with me and like let it shine in all of like the work that I do, from research to implementation, to results to if I need to make fixes and stuff like that, um, that's the impact that I want to leave. So I don't know why specifically it's that, but I do know that's what I want the outcome to be. So I'm gonna continue to work towards it, since I don't really see what other option I have. At least the way I'm rationalizing it is that after 22 years on this earth, and I haven't found anything remotely more interesting than this, I might as well just stick with it and do the best that I can with it, and ensure that I'm helping as many people as possible. So if you are someone who's like having trouble and like sort of deciding like what is it that I want to do, um, I would just say, in when you're figuring out what that is, think about how you can help others the most. Because we have reached a point in humanity where we're not really going to do anything else. We're not really going to do anything else notable for like purely selfish intention. So we need to carry ourselves in such a way that if even only a little bit, we're trying to help somebody else out. So if you're looking for like what motivates you in life, just you don't that doesn't even have to be your motivation, but at least let it be your goal, which are, to me are like two different things. So you at least for me, you don't always have to have a motivation to do something. Sometimes you do things just to do them. And like for me, this is what this is. I'm doing this because it's chosen me at this point. But since I don't have a specific motivation for it, I'm going to make sure that the work that I do is going to help someone else. Because otherwise, I'm just sitting here having fun at other people's expense for what? I don't. I'm not that type of person. So, um, yeah. So that's generally my advice there.
Okay, that brings us to the close of the advising body. So now we're going to move on to our final segment, PS123s. And for everybody to out there, let's remember PS123s are based on my journal. And so one piece of content you recommend for the day, then two insights, things you've learned about the world, yourself, or just any insights you've made, and then three things you're grateful for. So, Porter, you want to start us off with number one, your piece of content for today?
Um, can it be a book recommendation?
It can be book, song. I
Okay,
do
all
it
right.
all.
So piece of content. The Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs. If you live in a city or plan to continue living in a city, especially East Coast city, um, just just give that book a read. Jane Jacobs was very influential in urban planning, urban settings, sociology, economics, and so of course, sort of indirectly politics as well. So if you're interested in any of those sort of things, or again, if you really just live in a city, give that book a read, and then just with the knowledge that you gain from that book, just try to see how you. Yeah, I think once you finish reading it, you'll see how life is lived differently in the cities, and how things can certainly be improved. So yeah, just give that a read. And if you like that, go ahead and read The Economy of Cities, and then The Cities of Wealth and Nations. But yeah, definitely Jane Jacobs. Also, a second book recommendations I know is like one piece of content. If you like
Yeah.
speculative fiction, anything Octavia Butler. That doesn't really matter which, just go ahead and read it. That personal favorite.
Okay. And then two, now your two insights you made about the world or things you learned about yourself or learned about other people. Two insights.
um, Two insights about the world. All right, this first one is gonna sound corny, but it's true. It's gonna sound corny because I got it from Twitter, or rather, it's something I learned while using Twitter. But two things can be true at once. The world is not as black and white as it's made to seem. Two different ideas, concepts, and stuff like that can exist simultaneously and be true at once. A great explanation for this is the Snape character from Harry Potter. You know, is Snape probably did love Harry. He was also still a terrible person for the way he treated him through all seven books. It's not either or. Snape was a good person, Snape was a bad person, just a morally gray area. But that concept can be applied for a whole bunch of things in life. two things can be true at once. And once you start like thinking like this, you at the very minimum, life around you should become like less argumentative because a lot of the reason things start is because people deal in absolutes. So that's the first piece of insight. Um, do I have a second piece of insight? Actually, yeah, I'll go with the one that was touched on a lot earlier in the interview. Um, a lot of things, especially in terms of like, city related matters, are not as simple as it might seem. So, 5 minutes of just like asking questions or so looking things up or a minor bit of investigative work will probably have you an answer and an explanation, a rational one at that, that you can use to make any decision that you need more often than not. Um, so so that you start making decisions like good faith, researching what you need to know ahead of time. And again, this might sound like a lot for what could be a minor concept, um, but even something as simple as just like doing a quick Google search on something you had a question about could help you formulate your question that much better, since you're asking for something specific instead of something. Excuse me, so asking for something specific instead of something broad. So that's something I found that helps me a lot as well.
Okay. And then lastly, three things you're grateful for.
I am grateful for my mother. I'm sure that was an expected answer. But that I would not be here without her guidance. My mother is the reason I ended up in the Saturday Leadership Academy, because that's nothing I would have signed up for on my own. So, um, three things I'm grateful for. Learning how to read and comprehend and think critically. That is all number two. I've encountered far too many people who do not have even one of those skills, and it has been a terrible time every time. So definitely grateful for that as well. Um, Third thing, actually, yeah, the third thing I'm grateful for is I've actually been able to live my passion. There are a lot of people who are passionate about something and are not able to pursue their dreams. I'm very fortunate in that I've been able to starting, at least it's an internship and not just a job, but right out of college, I've been able to work with what I love. And with any luck, I'll be able to continue that trajectory, whether or not I return to school, and keep that going for the rest of my life. But a lot of people, don't. A lot of people don't get to do that. There are people with biology degrees working in a grocery store. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful for that, because they could have been. I could have very easily ended up, right back at like FedEx or Amazon. That's what I was doing for the pandemic. So, fortunately, I'm in a place where I can let my talent shine, and gain even more knowledge.
Okay. Well, thank you, Porter, for showing up on the show today. That has been episode 8 of Letters to My Mentees. Remember to follow us and rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or YouTube. And remember, we want to share these stories to inspire you and then hopefully be able to share your success story one day. Again, I'm your host, Joshua Brunel, and I'm signing off.